Concise History of Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, Chapter 15.1b, Conquest of Makkah. Note that this presentation is continuation of Chapter 15.1a, Breaking Fast during the journey of Prophet and Muslims from Medina to Makkah. When Muslim army reached Qadid, they broke their fast of Ramadan. We learn from this that we cannot break our fast before Maghrib or sunset and make Qasr Salat in our hometown. We can only do it during the journey. Finally, the Muslim army camped at Mar az Zahran. Now this place is called Wadi Fatima, which is about 20 kilometers from Makkah. Here the Prophet ﷺ ordered every individual to lit his own fire. Hence 10,000 fires were lit. The Prophet ﷺ appointed Umar bin Khattab as his security guard. Abbas radiallahu anhu went out of the camp riding on Prophet ﷺ's white mule to look for someone who can inform the Quraysh about the Islamic army so that Quraysh may seek protection from the Prophet ﷺ before the attack. On the other hand, Quraysh were very scared of Muslims, and the leaders used to come out of Makkah to look for any suspicious movement by the Muslims. That night, Abu Sufyan bin Harb, Hakim bin Hazam, and Budail bin Warqa were on the mission since they were expecting some retaliation from the Muslims after the violation of the Treaty of Hudaybiyah by the Quraysh. Abbas radiallahu anhu narrated, I heard Abu Sufyan saying to Warqa, I have never seen such fire and army before. Warqa said, these are Banu Khuza'a. Abu Sufyan said, Banu Khuza'a are much inferior and lower in strength than this. Abbas radiallahu anhu further narrated, I recognized the voice of Abu Sufyan and I said, are you Abu Hanzala? He replied, are you Abu al-Fadl? I replied, yes. Abbas told them that it was the Prophet ﷺ and the Muslim army and the Quraysh will be destroyed soon. Abu Sufyan asked Abbas, what is your advice? Abbas radiallahu anhu said, if people see you, they will kill you. It is better for you to ride with me on this mule so that I take you to the Prophet ﷺ and seek refuge for you. Abu Sufyan rode behind Abbas. Abbas narrated, people let us pass near their fire when they saw the Prophet's mule. However, when Umar radiallahu anhu saw us, he recognized Abu Sufyan and jumped to kill him. I hurriedly reached the tent of the Prophet ﷺ and Umar radiallahu anhu followed us there. He requested the Prophet ﷺ repeatedly to grant him permission to kill Abu Sufyan. I said to the Prophet ﷺ, I have granted him refuge. I also said to Umar, if it was an individual from your tribe, you would not have asked this permission from the Prophet ﷺ. Umar said, O Abbas, your acceptance of Islam is more dear to me than the acceptance of Islam of my father Khattab. Since your acceptance of Islam is more dear to me, to the Prophet, than the acceptance of Islam of Khattab. The Prophet ﷺ said to Abbas, "Take Abu Sufyan to your tent and bring him back to me tomorrow morning." The Prophet ﷺ said to Abu Sufyan next morning, "Abu Sufyan, woe to you! Have you not understood yet that there is no God worthy of worship except Allah?" Abu Sufyan said, "You are indeed very patient, kind, and you respect the kinship. I have now clearly understood that if there was a God other than Allah, He would have helped me." The Prophet ﷺ said to Abu Sufyan, "Woe to you! Have you not understood yet that I am the Prophet of Allah?" Abu Sufyan said, "I have still some doubt about it in my heart." At that time, Abbas radiallahu anhu said to Abu Sufyan, "It is better for you to embrace Islam before you are killed." Then Abu Sufyan embraced Islam after some hesitation. Abbas radiallahu anhu requested the Prophet ﷺ to grant some honor to Abu Sufyan since he loved to be honored. The Prophet ﷺ announced the amnesty for the people of Makkah, stating, "Whosoever takes refuge in Abu Sufyan's house is safe. Whosoever confines himself to his house is safe, and whosoever enters the sacred masjid is safe." A miracle. Islamic army proceeded to Makkah in the morning of 17th Ramazan 8th Hijrah, and it is miracle that an army of 10,000 men reached the doorsteps of Makkah and the Quraysh were unaware of it. Abbas radiallahu anhu said to Abu Sufyan, "You should go back to Makkah quickly and inform the people about the situation." Abu Sufyan went to Makkah and said to the people, "The Prophet ﷺ has come with a big army. None has the power to confront this army. It is better for you to enter my house for refuge." People said, "How many people your house can hold?" Abu Sufyan said, "Whosoever confines himself to his house is safe, and whosoever enters the sacred masjid is safe." Most people took refuge in their homes and in the sacred masjid, but a few young people and their leaders like Akrama bin Abu Jahl, Safwan bin Umayyah, and Suhail bin Umr started waiting for the Muslim army to confront them. Entry of Islamic army into Makkah. The Prophet ﷺ divided the Muslim army into three groups. Khalid bin Walid was kept on the right, and he had Arab tribes with him. Zubair bin Awwan radiallahu anhu was kept on the left, and he was instructed to wait for the Prophet ﷺ at Ajum. Abu Ubaidah radiallahu anhu was commander of the foot soldiers. They were instructed not to kill unless in self-defense. Khalid was confronted by young men of Quraysh, and he killed 12 of them, and others ran away. However, Qurs bin Jabir and Hubays bin Ash'ar became martyrs since they were by chance separated from their troops. Khalid radiallahu anhu proceeded through the streets of Makkah and met the Prophet ﷺ at Safa mountain. Zubair radiallahu anhu planted a banner at Fath Masjid and waited for the Prophet ﷺ. A tent was set up there for the Prophet, and he offered prayer of thanks to Allah for granting him grand victory. Subhanallah. During the entry into Makkah, the Prophet ﷺ had bent his head so much so that his beard was touching the saddle of his camel. This was to show humbleness and gratitude instead of haughtiness and arrogance like most of the conquerors. entry into sacred masjid. The Prophet ﷺ entered the sacred masjid, Masjid al-Haram, accompanied by the immigrants Muhajirin and Ansar. He was riding on a she-camel with a stick in his hand. He touched the black stone Hajr Aswad with his stick and then went around Baitullah 7 times. There were 360 idols inside and around Baitullah. The Prophet ﷺ touched each idol with his stick and each idol fell down on its face. The Prophet ﷺ was also reciting the following verses. Al-Isra, verse 81. وَقُلْ جَاءَ الْحَقُّ وَزَهَقَ الْبَاطِلُ إِنَّ الْبَاطِلَ كَانَ زَهُوقًا. And say, truth, Islam has come and falsehood has disappeared. Indeed, the falsehood is bound to disappear. And Prophet ﷺ was also reciting this verse of Surah Sabah, verse 49. قُلْ جَاءَ الْحَقُّ وَمَا يُبْدِلُ بَاطِلُ وَمَا يُعِيدُ. O Muhammad ﷺ, say, the truth has come and the falsehood can neither create anything nor resurrect anything. Since the Prophet ﷺ was not in state of ihram, he went around Baitullah only. Then he took keys of Baitullah from Usman bin Talha and opened the door of Baitullah with his own hands. The Prophet ﷺ saw the pictures of angels inside Baitullah. He also saw the pictures of Ibrahim alayhi salam and Ismail alayhi salam with arrows in their hands to determine the destiny. The Prophet ﷺ said, woe to the idolaters. Both these prophets never used arrows like this. The Prophet ﷺ also saw a wooden pigeon there which he broke into pieces with his own hands. Bilal radiallahu anhu and Usama radiallahu anhu were with the Prophet ﷺ inside Baitullah. The Prophet ﷺ, closed the door of Baitullah and prayed there facing opposite to door of Baitullah. Then he walked around in it and recited loudly, Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar, Allah is the greatest, Allah is the greatest. After this, the Prophet ﷺ opened the door, and while standing in the door, the Prophet ﷺ said, La ilaha illallah wahdah, sadaqa wa'dah, wa nasara abdah, wa hazama al-ahzaba wahdah. There is none worthy of worship except Allah. He is unique. He fulfilled his promise and helped his obedient servant. He alone defeated all the forces. Then the Prophet ﷺ said, bear in mind that every honor of the time of ignorance, whether that of blood or property, is abolished except that of the custody of Kaaba and supplying water to pilgrims. Then the Prophet ﷺ recited this verse of Al-Hujurat. Ya ayyuhan nasu inna khalaqnakum min dhakarin wa untha wa ja'alnakum shu'uban wa qabaila lita'arafu inna akramakum indallahi atqakum inna Allah alimun khabir. O mankind, we have created you from a male and a female, Adam and Eve. We made you into nations, and each nation has tribe for your identification. Indeed, the most honorable from you with Allah is that believer who is the most pious among you. Allah is all-knowing, well acquainted with all the things. Hence, don't brag about your lineage or nationality. The sacred masjid was packed with people and they were extremely anxious and they were waiting to see how this great conqueror will treat them. Various thoughts were running in their minds. For example, he may kill all of us due to the extreme torture we have inflicted upon him and his followers. Or he may make us slaves and he may usurp our properties and other belongings. Standing in the open door of Kaaba, the Prophet ﷺ said to the people, O people of Quraysh, what do you think? How am I going to treat you today? They replied, O noble brother and son of noble's brother, we expect nothing but goodness from you. The Prophet ﷺ said, I say to you same words as Yusuf salam said to his brothers. Then he recited Surah Yusuf verse 92. قال لا تثريب عليكم اليوم يغفر الله لكم وهو أرحم الراحمين. He said, no blame is on you from me today. May Allah forgive you, and He is the most merciful of those who show mercy. The Prophet ﷺ further added, اذهبوا فأنتم مطلقا. Go, all of you are free today. Note that Prophet ﷺ not only forgave them in Taif, but forgave them here also when he became the great conqueror and supreme commander. There is no such example in human history when someone forgave all those who were after his life. After this, Ali radhiyallahu requested the Prophet ﷺ to grant him the keys of Kaaba along with the service of supplying water to the pilgrims. By another narration, it was requested by Abbas radhiyallahu. The Prophet ﷺ called Usman bin Talha and returned to him the keys of Kaaba or custody of Kaaba and said, today is the day to do good turn and today is the day for the fulfillment of the trust. The Prophet ﷺ recited the following verse of Surah An-Nisa, verse 58. And Allah command that you should return back to the trust of people to their owners. And when you judge between people, you should judge with full justice. Indeed, that is excellent about which Allah is advising you. Indeed, Allah is all hearer, all seer. The Prophet ﷺ ordered that keys of Kaaba will stay with Usman bin Talha radhiyallahu anhu and his descendants forever, which is the case till today. Subhanallah. This topic will continue in the next presentation, inshallah. ربنا تقبل منا إنك أنت السميع العليم وتب علينا إنك أنت التواب الرحيم.